nothing better than having a Zoom call full of kiters, because we're all just so like stoked on life and weather and stuff like that. Hey, Chris, have you been snow kiting before?
Yes, I did, but you know, for me, like as much as I love like kite surfing, windsurfing used to be my life, you know, and then so many years ago, I transitioned into kite surfing, and then of course that leads to snow kiting. But I've been flying canopies from 19 years onwards, you know, from when I was 19 years, and
cool.
Friends of mine started speed riding, and that got me into speed riding and speed flying. And then I discovered the freedom you can get. And as I've said, you know, as much as I love kiting, the snow kiting is great, but it has its limitations as soon as you start flying. Yeah, I know that there are some people, and I've been snow kite flying, you know, in Chile, like some crazy little mountains or high mountains off, but it's the speed riding gives you a different perspective, because you can use the wing in the same way as you use a kite, you know, to kite when it's really windy.
Yeah, that
but
had
then
me
when you
fascinated
fly,
when you told me that.
you're just flying a proper canopy.
You can kind of,
what's that?
You can use your speed riding canopy as a land-based going upwind, uphill type thing, and then turn around and go downhill with the canopy on.
And it's just amazing, because the technology of the wings has so progressed that someone who just skis next to you and you are up with your canopy, you are as fast as that person, because the wings are so steeply trimmed. And it's just such a fascinating sport.
That reminds me, one of my favorite sessions. I've got a handful of favorite sessions, and one of them, I was up in Alaska with a guy called Yuli. And Yuli, they call him the godfather of speed flying. He's been, he was an Olympic snowboarder and incredible speed flyer. And so one day he and I were out there, and I had a 7 meter inflatable best kite, I think, and he had a 7 meter speed flying wing, and we both ascended up the mountain about 2,500 feet to the top. And when we got to the top, he turned around and flew down, and I turned around the top and left tracks coming down. So, there's pleasure in both sports. For some people aren't into flying, and that's one of the great things about snow kiting, is that most of the time it's a ground-based sport. And yes, we can jump like we do on the water, and yes, you can learn to glide, forward glide, reverse glide, and things like that. If you have the right location, the right wind, the right surface, there's quite a few things that need to line up. I do think that speed flying is an incredible addition if you're into flying wings and you want to get in the air. It's definitely a safer way to be in the air than using our kites. And unless you have rigged your kite as a kite that's set up to glide. I have a lot of friends over here in the States, and they build their own bars. They put on stronger lines. They put on, they eliminate the chicken loop. Yeah. They strengthen it to make sure that it's a much safer way of flying. But
so lots of people believe speed flying obviously is just about speed flying. Yeah. So you foot launch, but then speed riding is skiing, and that's where the French, who came up with the sport, they pushed the sport. It's it's staying on the ground, because staying on the ground means you're in control of the wing, and you determine when you are taking off, and you also determine where you want to land it. And for that, we teach people the riding, and the flying is a whole different thing. And you can fly very safe, just straight forward and do a 90-degree turn and land. But the riding is the most important thing to learn in the beginning. And from there, you go into the flying. And that's what has changed, because when I learned speed riding, it was basically just launching a wing, taking off, flying as close and as fast to the mountain and off the mountain, and then landing it in a crazy way with a swoop, you know? And that has changed. And it's more staying on the ground and using and flying as well, of course. But it's both. Yeah.
It sounds much more sensible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's the natural development of the sport, and it's still, as we all know, it's still a very super niche sport, you know. But I think it's such an appealing sport to us as people, you know, like kite surfers who are also fascinated by winter sports, and it doesn't. It's not that it takes snow kiting away. It's just a different thing, as wing foiling doesn't take away kite surfing. You know, it's just a fascinating addition to it.
Yeah, that's what appeals to me, the option to go. And I think it's something that people who are not familiar with sports that have pieces of equipment and a little bit of faff around to get going, they might look at it and go, oh, you know, I just want to get to the top of the lift and go down again.
Yeah.
But people like us who are, you know, prepared to pump up kites and connect lines and untangle lines and screw our foils together and muck around on the beach for a little bit before we go and have an amazing session with doing things that you just can't do. I think it appeals to us because, you know, we're not turned off by the fact that you got to lay your canopy out and get all your ground handling happening at the top of the hill. That's not a put off because the rewards are so worth it. So.
And you again learn something new, which I believe we all really enjoy, you know, this from, you know, it's really annoying, you know, what's happening, I'm tangled up again, you know, to like, wow, I can feel it, you know, I start mastering it or I start progressing into it, you know, and I want to master that. And it's a new skill, and this new skill will contribute to my other sports. Like kite surfing contributed so much to my speed riding. And you know what it was predominantly? It was the tension in the lines. You know, when you kite and when you jump and when you master your jumping in kite surfing, your focus is, one of the focuses is on the tension of your lines, you know, at all times, that you are really connected to that kite as tight as possible. And that's also super important with speed riding, where you use your hips and your body position in order to have this few millimeters or a centimeter of more tension in the lines and feel it more direct.
Sounds fun.
And yeah.
So Chris, I'm not a particularly good skier. I haven't skied for 20 years. I'm a pretty good snowboarder. How good does the skiing have to be to speed ride?
An average, you know, intermediate level of skiing. We had guys, you know, who were so keen, skydivers, said like, nah, I haven't done any skiing, but if I do a week of skiing, will that be enough? Well, they struggled a lot, you know, and they have to put an extra effort in, and it's not perfect, but they did it too. Would I recommend it? No, you know, I would say no, do a season of skiing before you get into speed riding. And after that, we'll send you back to ski school.
All right.
But it just, even for seasoned skiers, where lots of them got the feel like, yeah, you know, I like skiing, I like the mountain, I like the glühwein and the schnapps on the mountain ski hat. It will actually get them back to that point where they are like, nah, I don't want to go to the hut at lunchtime because I really want to work on a certain technique to improve, because that improvement will improve my speed riding. And and the difference about an amazing shot, like we have those photographers, you know, taking pictures at camps, you know, of our campers, and the way that shot looks out of this world is your skiing technique. If your skiing technique is spot on, the speed riding shot will look amazing. If your ski technique is off, it will look a little bit average.
You look off balance.
Yeah.